A school bus picked up my kid 4 days ago. After he was gone, I just went about my day like I always do. When school was over, I waited at the end of our driveway, but a school bus never came. When I called the school, they said my son had never arrived. He got on the bus, I told them. There was silence. We don't doubt he got on a bus, they told me, but it wasn't one of ours. When I started freaking out, they told me I wasn't alone. The same thing had happened to 18 other children this morning, and the police were on top of it. When I asked what that meant, they simply said, "They're working on it." They know. I keep going back to that morning trying to remember something, anything, but the same things that I remember are the reason I wasn't paying attention. The bus was yellow. It was long. It had wheels. What the fuck am I supposed to remember about a bus? The thing pulls up and you kiss your kid and that's that. 5 times a week, and the routine gets so redundant a submarine might have pulled up and I'm not sure I would have noticed. 3 days ago, the parents of the missing kids got together at the rec center to put their heads together and support each other and grieve. Everyone was crying and rerunning the theories they have for days. Some of them are absolutely batshit. There wasn't any complicated thread connecting the kids, really. They were all in elementary school and lived in the same neighborhood, and that was about it. Some people think the school is covering something up, or maybe the bus company, but all the drivers are accounted for and the school's got nothing to gain. Everyone local knows about it already, and some parents are keeping their kids home until this is figured out. 2 days ago, the parents received something in their mailbox. It must have come in the normal mail. In a little white envelope, there was a drawing from their child. All were of school buses exploring something different. The edge of a cliff, the bottom of the sea, a barn on fire, the thickest, blackest woods. On the back of the drawings, written in cursive, was the same black handwriting, neat as a crew cut. It's just a little trip. Yesterday, halfway to California, the police are saying they found a field with 18 scarecrows. Each was wearing our children's clothes. At the edge of the field, scratched in the mud in big letters, were the lyrics. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all the way. This morning, I'm standing on the curb and I've picked up smoking again and I'm waiting for the bus to come back. I've done it every day, of course, in the morning and after school. Every day, I'm twice as terrified as the last. I hear the diesel and a bus comes rolling around the corner. The bus is yellow. The bus is long. The bus has wheels. The bus has children. But none of them are mine. I haven't seen anyone for 28 days. I'm a 15-year-old boy from the UK. I don't know why I feel the need to mention that, but I don't understand why I do anything now. My life was so normal. I went to school, hung out with friends, and did all the normal stuff people my age do. What I believe to be 28 days ago, I woke up in the night. I checked my phone and it read 1:13. I didn't feel tired enough to go back to sleep, so I decided to go on my phone and listen to music for a bit. Afterwards, I checked my phone again. 1:13. Maybe I misread it last time. I decided I should go back to sleep. When I woke up, the clock still read 1:13. I knew I saw the same time earlier. It was still completely dark out. It was at this point I started to panic. I like to have everything explained to some degree, and not being able to think of an excuse for my situation was stressing me. I remembered that my parents were in the room down the hall. I decided that I should seek their help. I entered their room and my heart dropped. They weren't there. Their bed was empty. My dog's bed was also empty. I ran into my sister's room and was greeted by the same thing, an empty bed. Maybe they're all downstairs. Downstairs was empty as well. No one. Nothing. Silence. I started to feel lightheaded. I was hyperventilating and struggling to catch my breath. At some point, I fainted. When I awoke, it was still dark. The house was still empty. The clock still read 1:13. Something was very wrong. I needed help. I called 999 in the hopes that I could get some help. The phone picked up, but it was just static on the other end. I was desperate now. I put some clothes on, and left the house. I knocked on my neighbor's door. When my fist made contact with it, it flung open. Why was their door unlocked? A part of me hoped this was a sign that they were still there, but I was mistaken. Another empty house. I spent the next several hours searching the houses near mine, and everything was the same. Emptiness. Each house was in pristine condition, yet no one lived in them. After searching for a while, I looked behind me to see a figure in the distance. It was pale white. Its arms were abnormally long, and it had no hands, just sharp points at the end of its arms. It also had no legs, meaning it was a torso and featureless head walking around with its arms. This thing horrified me. I stared at it for a while, but it did nothing. It didn't move once. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Loneliness is getting to me or something. I grew tired of searching, so I went back home and slept. When I woke up, can you guess? 1:13, still empty. I started searching again, for anything or anyone. I also got hungry, so I stopped for some food at the full but empty 7-Eleven. I started calling phone numbers. They all did the same thing. They picked up, but it was just static. I also saw that thing again, only it felt like it was closer to me. Only by like a meter, but it was closer. The next few weeks, or what felt like weeks, I couldn't tell since it was always 1:13, went the same. I looked, I ate, I called, and I saw the thing again. Every time I saw it, I felt like it was closer. After some time, I started hearing a faint static. It was coming from that thing. The same static I heard when I called a number. I can only assume that it was picking up the phone. The static kept getting louder as the thing got closer to me over time. I hated the feeling this thing gave me. Hearing the static does something to me. This has been my life for the last month, I think. I'm only writing this because the power shut down a few hours ago. That thing is right behind me. All I can hear is static. I'm using the last of my phone battery to write this as I sit in pure darkness, hearing nothing but static. What happened? How do I make it out? Please help me. I adopted a dog from the shelter, but I'm starting to think he isn't a dog at all. Buster A. Smilo. My fiancé Victor continued to list potential names for the new addition to our family. I wanted a baby. He said not yet. And so we settled on getting another dog. We already had 3, my Welsh Terriers, Goldie and Teddy, and his miniature poodle, Fifi. But what harm could one more do? We'd both had our other dogs since they were puppies, and had planned on doing the same for the next one until a friend recommended rescuing an older dog. After looking into it, we found an adorable pup named Joey. He was a 1-year-old English Mastiff mix, a mutt unlike our other dogs, but he had those same captivating brown eyes. His previous owners gave him up because they hadn't expected him to get so big, but we didn't care about that. We felt he belonged with us, no matter his size. After all, he was clearly a gentle giant. Upon meeting him, I realized just how big he really was. But Victor seemed to have fallen in love already, so I didn't comment on it. Joey was playful but chill, and I knew my reservations would leave in no time. I mean, how could I look into those big blue eyes and not love him? I thought to myself, wait a second, blue? I could have sworn his eyes were brown a moment ago. Huh, strange. When we brought him home, Goldie and Teddy didn't take much notice, whilst Fifi growled and hid behind the couch. Joey didn't get aggressive back. He simply looked up at me in confusion, so I hoped that in time they'd get along better. Not much changed in most aspects of our life. Fifi didn't seem to be liking him anymore, but I knew to give it time. She wasn't exactly struck on my 2 when Victor and I first moved in together, but now they cuddle and play all the time. Still, it seemed her fears were getting worse. I'd wake up in the night to find her in the strangest hiding places, shaking and whimpering, but unharmed. Joey was always nearby, just looking around, perplexed by the situation. One day I could have sworn I saw him bare his teeth at her in the mirror when my back was turned, but only for a split second, as if he didn't want me to see. I became more on edge around him, keeping him in the kitchen during nights while the other dogs stayed in the bedroom. He didn't seem bothered by this arrangement, and Victor said I was being paranoid. But not long after all, our food started going bad. It was as if somebody had taken all the refrigerated items out for the night, even eaten some, then put it all back in before we woke up. As I held rotten food in my hands and looked into his eyes, I knew something was wrong with that dog, and I felt he was challenging me. I put a kennel in the backyard and kept him there overnight instead. Then dead animals started showing up all over the grass, their organs completely missing. When I so much as raised my voice at him for committing such a heinous act, he snarled at me. He was showing more and more aggression, not just to me, but to our other 3 dogs, especially Fifi. When I mentioned to Victor I was worried Joey was going to hurt her, he got mad. How could you say such a sweet, gentle dog would ever do that? And to Fifi too. You know how much she means to me. Fifi and another dog belonged to his sister, but his sister and the other dog passed in a car accident a couple weeks before we met. I didn't want to upset him further, so I dropped it. That was until I woke up to whimpers. No, screams, in the middle of the night and ran downstairs to see Joey in the living room tearing Fifi to shreds. There was insides everywhere, and I don't think I'll ever get the image of her blood smudged around his mouth out of my mind. I've never cried out for help so loudly. Victor came running and instinctively turned the lights on to see pieces of a stuffed toy strewn around the room. He then proceeded to berate me for my behavior. Seriously, Rachel? What the fuck's been up with you lately? Why are you so out to get this innocent dog? All the while, Joey's eyes bore into me, looking more sinister and soulless than ever. I'd had enough of the mind games. The final straw was 3 nights ago. I awoke to a figure looming over me in the darkness. It was grotesque. Its limbs looked out of place, and every part of it looked disproportionate and broken. At first, I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Its eyes met mine, and immediately I knew what it was. Joey, out of his disguise. I turned to Victor and shook him awake as fast as I could. But by the time he turned over, Joey was a dog again, sitting beside the bed. Victor just looked at me, shook his head in disapproval, and went back to sleep. I sent Joey out of the room and did the same. The next morning I was surprised with a weekend getaway. We hastily packed our bags, and Victor solemnly said goodbye to Joey, as the place only allowed small dogs. A friend would be coming over later to pick Joey up to stay with him while we were away. I didn't tell Victor, but I was relieved. For the first time in the past month, I felt that me and my babies were safe. We hopped into the car and headed toward our destination. Once we were a good 50 miles away from home, Victor said to me, "You know, last night, right before you, woke me up?" Dreading the argument that was sure to come, I nodded and he continued, "Well, I saw it too. Anthony's not picking Joey up, and Animal Rescue is. I told him he was aggressive and uncontrollable. They're, going to put him down. I'm sorry I didn't believe you." We're currently at my parents' house until we feel comfortable back at ours, if we ever do. Still, I'm not so sure this is the end. There's a reason NASA stopped exploring the deep sea. I am a former NASA scientific researcher. My division was in charge of studying deep sea life, both fauna and flora, in the world's oceans. Here are some facts. 70% of the world is ocean. The deepest part of the ocean is not the Mariana Trench. There's tons of underwater cave systems further down, some quite large. We have not identified every life form down there. Knowing these, let me tell you why NASA fired me and a small team of fellow researchers from the Oceanographic Division hired completely new personnel and switched to space exploration. In their defense, I had no interest in continuing my research. Before I begin, I want to say that most of this division actually did study underwater life forms to varying degrees, but most researchers were not involved with the life forms that my team investigated. Therefore, no information about these events has been released to the public, at least to my knowledge. I'm purposely going anonymous here for many reasons, as the US government would prefer to keep this out of the public eye, and people have disappeared for far less in my profession. On an off note, it's deeply tragic what happened recently with the submarine that imploded. I think I'm correct in my suspicion on what caused it, of course, but it's not what the public was told. Anyway, I will now detail a few incidents that I think the public needs to be aware of. Case Study 1. Monte Carlo Oil Rig Diving Incident. I was involved with a study that was sanctioned between NASA and a private corporation to investigate an unknown anomaly. Metal parts at the bottom of the rig had taken damage from an unknown source, and a dive team of 3 was sanctioned to investigate it. The dive did not go well. Something we'd never seen before was down there with the divers. We do not know much about it, but I can tell you what we do know. It resembles an extremely intelligent class of giant cephalopods, more intelligent than any other sea creature ever encountered. They are strong and carnivorous and extremely large. It's theorized they purposely damaged the rig to lure humans deep down. It's unknown what they normally eat, or why they sometimes decide to target humans, but it is clear they will not hesitate to eat us. The 3 divers that were attacked had little means to defend themselves. These cephalopods worked in unison, with an extreme understanding of human equipment. One cephalopod removed a diver's air tank from his back, while another removed his fins. Their tentacles have extreme suction and can attach to any object. Dive knives did not appear to damage their bodies, where in the past divers have been able to fight off Humboldt squids and other cephalopods with them. A second diver was choked by a cephalopod from behind as another created a distracting light display with its body, showing they had an understanding of how humans breathe. Note, they can flash and take on any color as it suits them, unlike other squids. But normally they resemble a black-blue color, which is almost imperceptible at the deep depths that they live, and explains in part how they are able to avoid discovery. Of course, none of us saw them coming in the research vessel up top, and it was too late to warn anyone. The 2 divers who were attacked perished, and we can only assume they were likely consumed. Amazingly, the 3rd diver was able to use an underwater flare to escape and report back the events in detail. As it stands, fire is this life form's only known weakness. Case Study 2. USS Cyclops, Missing Ship Log Recovery. What began as a normal shipwreck investigation has arguably become one of the biggest cover-ups in history. The ship's location has not been released to the public, and I agree that it should be kept secret. The beings that took that ship down should be avoided at all costs. To this day, the public does not know anything other than that a US ship disappeared. Perhaps these creatures can be blamed for other missing ships, though we cannot prove that. This ship had a log that detailed the same beings encountered at the Monte Carlo oil rig. Black-blue giant squid-resembling entities that work in teams and can use tools of human creation. These cephalopods engaged the ship at night in a surprise attack and damaged it beyond repair. They dragged down survivors, including many from atop lifeboats using their tentacles. They left no trace of their encounter. They are clearly incredibly strong and can easily hold humans underwater, drowning them. There's a theory that they may even derive pleasure in killing, shown by them flashing certain patterns on their bodies immediately upon the taking of a life, although this is still just a theory. There are other incidents that I won't get into here. I don't intend to scare people by bringing this information to light, but I do think divers and people who are interested in using submersibles to investigate the deep sea need to be warned. These creatures normally stay in very, very deep water, and there's only a few incidents of human interaction. For the common person, they generally pose no threat. While extremely intelligent, they have not shown the ability to create tools, only to use those which humans have made. It is likely that they only go after humans when they are unable to find sufficient food sources in their own environments. We believe them to be just another species of giant squid, albeit an extremely intelligent one. I cannot understand why our government is hiding their existence, as they are just natural sea predators like sharks and orca whales. But whatever the reason, remember this: humans are not the top predators in the deep ocean. Naturally, NASA has chosen to avoid further exploration of the deep sea, for now, to avoid contact with these creatures until the proper measures are put in place. There's something really weird happening with my local news channel. I'm one of those dinosaurs that still uses cable. Please spare me your judgment. I like having our town's local news playing in the background. It's occasionally informative, but more often than not, the headlines are light. In such an eventful and politically charged time, it's nice to give my brain a break by switching to a channel where half of the stories are about old animals celebrating their birthdays, traffic in the area, and upcoming fireworks celebrations. Tonight, for the most part, hadn't been much different. The anchors, Michael and Priya, were their usual selves. Some banter, some very boring headlines, and then a cut to what's-her-name on the street doing interviews about, I forget and not really important. So you can probably imagine I had to do a double take when Michael casually dropped the following headline. And in breaking news, residents of our county have been asked to close their windows, pull back their curtains and stay indoors. Apparently there's been some sort of chemical leak at a nearby plant, so locals are being asked to take precautions. This request is coming from the municipal government. As this is breaking news, Priya chimed in, we are currently waiting for information on exactly what took place at the plant and, of course, just how dangerous this all might be. What? Some sort of chemical spill in our area was a pretty damn big deal. It was strange to see the report delivered so nonchalantly from the anchors. I googled my town and the words spill or leak or hazard, and nothing came up. I switched stations to more mainstream news channels, CNN, but nothing about this was being covered there either. I figured maybe this wasn't such a big deal, or it was too new for anything outside of local media to report on just yet. And so I went back to scrolling on my laptop while the news continued to play in the background. Half an hour passed as the anchors cycled through some more generic headlines. Then, a quick reminder, delivered by Michael. And a notice to residents of our local county. Due to a chemical spill that is being reported in the area, residents have been strongly advised to stay indoors, close their windows, and shut their blinds. We have been told that this chemical leak is extremely dangerous, said Priya. Residents are advised to head inside immediately. There is a risk of death if you are exposed to the chemicals for a prolonged period. Giving it a little bit of thought, the lack of news articles about this on the web put a weird feeling in my stomach. Was this story being suppressed? Flipping through other news stations again, there was no mention of the story. Nothing on the news tickers either. I had to center myself and give myself a quick reality check. My middle-of-nowhere town wasn't important to anyone other than my local news station or the thousands or so who lived here. Still, in my curiosity, I got up from my comfortable spot on the sofa and peeked through a small sliver between my living room blinds. Nothing out of the ordinary. Cars in their driveways. Most of the lights in the nearby houses were off. It's midnight here. A couple of solitary bedroom lights on. Pretty tame all in all. I sat back down. This was probably the most tuned in I had ever been to the news. To my surprise, some really strange banter between Michael and Priya was playing out. I almost wonder if we're safe in here, Michael started. Priya giggled. What, you think this building isn't safe? And that they'd have us deliver news about a leak that we're susceptible to? Michael laughed, big laughs. He looked at a piece of paper in his hands. I heard, he said, still laughing. I heard it was actually a spill from a train, not a power plant. Is that so? Laughed Priya. She wiped a tear from her eyes. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. We gotta find the levity. Gotta find the levity, Michael echoed. Gotta find the levity in stressful moments like this. Hope you're all staying safe, indoors, curtains closed, windows locked. Remember, this is breaking news. You're hearing this here first, said Priya. Stay inside. Stay safe, tagged Michael, pointing to the camera. We'll give you more details as they come in. They're saying it was from a train now. I peeked outside again. Strange. Most of the lights were off, but some of my neighbors' cars were missing. I saw a family only a few houses down, loading into their car and immediately driving off. Was it safer to leave the town? Didn't they just get exposed to the chemicals? It was hard not to ruminate. Hard not to keep Googling, switching to other news stations, texting my only close friend who lived in the area. No updates, nothing of substance. Back to the local news. They were covering another story of little importance. My eyes lazily lowered to the news ticker at the bottom of the screen. Between headlines about boring local happenings, and Ariana Grande for some reason, I saw the following line. "They are lying run now." Almost as immediately as I saw it, it was scrubbed, like it had never been there in the first place. Did I imagine that? Before I could ruminate, Priya got up from her desk. "And Priya's wrapping for the evening," proclaimed Michael. "I'm done for the evening," she affirmed. She walked off set. Michael sat there smiling at the camera. This continued uninterrupted, for I shit you not 30 seconds. Then, a cut to some sort of CCTV footage angle of a parking lot. It continued for a few seconds until Priya walked into frame, pressed a button on her keys, and opened the door to her car. Then another cut. A poor quality zoom in on the moon. Not a full moon, mind you. It was partially obscured. I think the stage is called Waxing Gibbuses. Waning gibbous, maybe. Doesn't matter. 30 seconds of this. A shaky camera. And then another cut. The camera was back at the parking lot. Priya and her car were gone. All of the cars in the parking lot were gone, actually. And then we were back with Michael. What the fuck? Michael went to the next story. Coming up next, this former circus bear is celebrating his 18th birthday. Only this time, this birthday comes with a dash of newfound freedom. We'll show you the heartwarming story of Binky and how he's enjoying his new life in the sun. Michael chuckled as he delivered this headline before the channel went to commercials. Fresh off another unsuccessful Google search, I parted my blinds and looked outside once again. Nearly all the cars in my vicinity were gone. What the fuck was happening? The noise from the TV transitioned back to the distinctive tones of the local news channel. That must have been like a 10-second commercial break. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is Michael, signing off. Bye-bye now. Stay indoors. Stay safe. Close your windows. Inside now, all right? I backed away from the window and caught the last leg of Michael's broadcast. He had gotten up from his desk and had walked over to the camera. An absurdly big smile on his face, smiling with his eyes too, joyful. Then, without hesitation, he softly picked up the camera, while giggling, and moved it to the left to expand the frame beyond the anchor desk and the small set that he and Priya were on. Beyond the set, there was nothing. It was a black void. He then turned the camera all the way to the right, past the anchor desk and the set. Again, nothing. Another endless black void. He then recentered the camera back to face the desk, but the void beyond the set was still partially visible. He kept eye contact with the camera for a few more seconds and then stepped to the side and out of frame. Do I run? What the fuck do I do? What is this? Whispers came from the TV. Michael's voice, quiet this time. "You're doing great," he whispered, as if he were beside the camera. "You're doing great. Just stay put. Windows closed. All right?" I needed to make a break for it. I needed to run. "And hey, because I like you, a little tip. He likes it when you stand in front of the bathroom mirror." He paused to giggle to himself. "He likes it, just stand still in front of the mirror, won't you? Stay put. He'll come get you soon. You did great. You're doing great. You'll be here with us soon." The channel cut to commercials right after that. A few seconds of stillness, and then I heard a rattling coming from my bathroom down the hallway. I froze in fear, hoping the sound would go away. Instead, it got louder and more aggressive. It was the sound of something cracking, fracturing. As I made a break for it, I heard my bathroom mirror shatter. Immediately, I raced down the stairs to my front door. As I did, I heard the generic commercial on my TV say the following line. "The all-new cozy comfort cushions. So cozy, you'll want to stay put, because the best place to be is right where you are." I unlocked my door as the audio from the commercial started warping. "Stay put. Be right where you are. Don't leave." As I swung the door open and prepared to run to my car, I felt something grab at the back of my shirt, pulling me back in. It felt both light and like the heaviest thing I'd ever felt. I'm not sure where the willpower in me came from to escape its grasp, but as I writhed and fought with all of my might, I was able to break free from its hold, run to my car and drive off, not taking a single moment to look back at whatever was trying to pull me in. I've been driving for a few hours now. I've texted a few friends, and I'm doing everything in my power to make sense of the inexplicable events that have taken place this evening. The fact that the GPS in my car keeps rerouting to the broadcast studio of my local news network isn't helping.